I think it would be very helpful. I think this is a power episode right here. A good way again to start the year.
Yeah. Hello, wisdom seekers.
I'm Jeanette Yvonne.
And I'm Alex, and together we channel the Ascended Masters to discuss, share, and illuminate ancient knowledge for practical modern embodiment and learn how to apply this ancient wisdom to support the collective awakening. Join us in our multidimensional conversations. Let's dive in, shall we? I was thinking about something that I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
So because you're the energy queen, I wanted to know, can you please explain this phenomenon? Okay, two phenomenons, I guess. First, this idea or this concept of the jinx. You know how like you're like, don't jinx me. Like somebody tells you, oh, your kids haven't been sick for a while, and you're like, dude, don't jinx it. Okay, so what's that about? That's the first one.
Okay.
And second, why is it that when you're like, oh, it's a little bit of the same concept, but I'm trying to retrace sort of the thought. Yeah, it's a little bit the same. It's kind of like, oh, this hasn't happened in a while. And like it happens.
Once you say it,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. Once you say it, something happens almost immediately. What's up with that?
Okay. So we are like master manifestors, right? We just unconsciously, we're not aware of, I think, how amazing we are. And my big thing is what is unconscious controls you.
Mm,
And so it's really truly about making everything conscious, being conscious about what you say, what you do, what you intend, and just being conscious of, like you said, the energy around us and the perspectives around us and our reality. Because when we're engaging with it consciously, then what we want to happen happens. If we're not engaging in it and we're just like almost allowing ourselves to then be a victim of it,
mm,
like the victim of others' thoughts, our unconscious thoughts, and just the matrix collective thoughts. So
mm,
big answer to that about jinxing is intention. It like energy flows where intention goes.
mm-hmm,
Anything you put your attention on, you are truly actually wielding and creating into your manifestation of reality. So even the unconscious intention, you don't
mm.
want it to happen. Well, remember the universe doesn't go on
Right.
negatives. So just literally putting your attention on something then starts to breed it into
Mm,
your manifestation environment. So
mm.
that makes sense, right? And but
It does.
it
But I'm
also
just,
puts a
yeah,
lot of responsibility and a lot of power in your hand. It's like,
it
whoa,
does. Is it also, do you think also the people have like a little bit of precognition? I It's so weird because I'm sure that the people that, just to take this example of, oh, how are your kids? Have they been, they've been good for a while or whatever. I'm sure they don't intend in the back of their minds, I hope her kids get sick again? Is it like there's something that's they kind of like intuit, that maybe something's gonna happen and they bring it up and then it does happen? It happens so many times to me. They're like, oh, how are your kids? And I'm like, they're good, like knock on wood, and then the next day
yeah.
they have fever. Like, whoever intended this, either unconsciously or consciously, I don't understand.
That's true too. There is the precognition that comes into play. Um, so again, it's like intention is everything. And was there a conscious or unconscious intention on their part? Or
Mm,
were they literally just picking up the information from the universe, from the ether? And
right.
so I'm sure in your intuitive courses and classes, you mentioned how to read the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Is the information coming from your mind,
Yeah.
fears, ego, or is the information coming from the is it the aha? Is it that light feeling? Is it that universal
Mm-hmm.
intelligence?
Yeah,
So,
that gut feeling.
so you would have to know where is their mind? Where is it getting the information
Mm.
from? Or do they know where they're getting the information from? So
Right. And it
that's
makes me
the big
think,
part.
that's a good point. Makes me think of um creating, manifesting that fear, sort of bringing it to life. Because
Yeah.
like you said, like the universe doesn't care about sort of what you want to think or what you want to believe. It actually manifests, with your intention. So if you have this fear, like, oh, I hope nothing's gonna happen, well,
Mhm.
it's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You're
So
literally, they planted the seed, maybe unconsciously, maybe again, you know how what comes around goes around, like they're just feeding off
mm,
the energy fears that they have subconsciously going on. I literally imagine like people that are unconscious are just word vomiting on everyone. It's like
mhm,
little kindergarten. It's like kindergarten class. So that's why I feel it's so important for people to be conscious of their thoughts, of their mind, because yeah, again, they might not mean for it to happen,
mhm,
but they're just acting on their autonomic conditioning response, societal upbringing, and they're thinking they're wishing you well. Like, oh,
mhm.
how are they? Mine got sick last week. Are yours getting? Like it's almost
Yeah,
just an autonomic response. It's like a social vomit. And but there's so much power in words.
that is true in language. And this is not to say, I don't want it to sound um like we're bringing forth disease or anything. Sometimes like kids just get sick, and this is just an
Yeah.
example, but it can just be any other sort of situation. It's just it happens, right? It's just to illustrate sort of how this energetically how it works. And it brings me to the evil eye. Should we talk about that? Like I saw a post, I don't remember in which group or where it was, but anyway, somebody was sort of asking if we can remove the evil eye from her because she's been having like really bad days. And so I was so curious. I don't think we've spoken about this on the podcast before. I'm
No,
curious to know sort of what's your take on that? What is this real? Like, is it real? Is sort of demonic possession or like, is this real? What do you
this
think?
is a great topic because this
Yes.
is like taboo kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So So the actual evil eye comes from like I think it's Indian, but it's really big in the Egyptian culture and ancient Egypt too. And I'm sure you can find a picture and post it here for everyone.
Yeah.
But the actual evil eye is defined as the protection symbol
Mm-hmm.
to protect you from evil intentions or wills of others or just jealousy, people looking at you from that perspective of negative
Mm-hmm.
realization. So the actual image and symbol is a protection symbol and it's actually
Right.
very beneficial and people can wear it, the necklace or the rings. And it's just a symbol of like this energetic barrier, so it's like warding or shielding yourself how you
Mm-hmm.
would do like a Reiki or any kind of energy practice. Um, it's just reminds you mentally that, I'm protected, I'm protected. You could do the same thing with like engaging with your angels or guides for protection or animal totems. Um, but so I highly, I want to say about 15, 17 years ago when I started this conscious journey of like paying attention to how energy really worked, I you could easily just put yourself in a rabbit hole of fear because I was like, ah,
Like, what if I open myself up? Oh
I
my
know, I
God.
was like, oh my God, everyone's throwing everything at me. And so it's true though, like you have to be kind of aware of protecting your intentions. I'm really big on I don't share my wins with people until after it's won. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? That's huge
Yeah.
because until you know who your circle is and who the people are around you, people can act like they're happy for you. And it's really difficult to find, I think, genuinely happy people that don't somehow internally think, well, why does she have it and I don't? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And it's like, instead, you should say, wow, she got it. That means I can get it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that perspective, but a lot of people just, they don't have that self-worth, and they don't have that belief in themselves.
Yeah.
They don't have that that willpower and stuff. And then they do think, well, why can't that happen to me? And so they put this negative intention and energy into
Unconsciously, by the way.
unconsciously. And
Mm-hmm.
you do, as we are all telepathic, we are all connected, we are all a collective, we will pick up on that energy
Yeah.
again. So it's like, you have to keep your mind strong and your intentions strong by sometimes not just, I want to say it's a big solar plexus thing. People
Hmm.
that have boundary issues and solar plexus issues, they want to keep it open, because I was very much like that. It was just, oh, I'll just keep it all open. And the
Mm-hmm.
energy just flows out, but it has no focus, it has no direction. And then you can also channel the intentions of others, and it kind of just really dilutes your purpose, and dilutes your power, and dilutes your again, your wanting to manifest good things in your life.
Hmm. Do you feel
So
like this, I'm sorry, do you feel like this applies more to highly sensitive people and empaths, or do you think that this is true across the line the same way for everybody?
I think you're absolutely right, where it's more affected by people that can sense energy better and
Mm.
are more sensitive to it. Again, people that have their chakras open,
That allow it to
you know,
happen, sort of?
yeah, that allow it. And it's funny how you notice the people that, like, I'm gonna earmuffs, that don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
People that, are just like walking through life like shit can't touch them. They're, sometimes they have this ego,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, too much ego, but it is like somehow they're protected. Somehow things
Mm-hmm.
just go right for them. Somehow they get whatever they want. Well, again, it's their belief in themselves that kind of
Mm.
almost, and their chakras are closed. They're more focused on energy taking instead of energy giving. And
Mm.
so, yeah, so it's harder to then affect them. Now, I do believe in karma. So if they do things on it with a negative intention, it will eventually catch up with them. But for the most part, if they're in that energy space of that, like, very confident and kind of closed to others' opinions and
Mm.
negativity,
Right.
then yeah, they're kind of protected. They have the evil eye protection, and just unconsciously knowing it, that they
Mm.
are.
Right. So what I'm getting here is, to a certain extent, we should sort of close ourselves, as in to protect ourselves. Not necessarily like I'm close to everybody, I don't want to have any friends in life, but it's more like I know where I end and I know where others begin. And sort of like I want to put a shield there in between myself and others. And for the same reason, you would not necessarily disclose your projects to everybody, just to keep it sort of shielded a little bit, right?
To, like a baby is in the womb, it's
Mm-hmm.
protected,
Mm-hmm.
and so you just want to keep your goals, your intentions, and things protected so that it can nourish and grow, and it's nourished by what you feed it, not any
Mm.
outside unconscious beliefs or ideas or things. So it's like, and I wouldn't say completely closed off, but I
Right.
would say grounded.
Okay.
And like you
I like
said,
that.
boundaries, because we all need healthy, neutral boundaries where we're not giving too much or not taking too much. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a great
Mm.
shielding word, is
Right.
just neutrality and centered and grounded. When you're
Mm.
grounded in who you are, and you know thyself,
Right.
you are unshakable. You are
Mm-hmm.
untouchable. And I mean, I think even, Jesus even taught that, where it's like, yeah, then
Yeah.
that's the place where you can't be really affected
Mm.
if you
And
are empathic.
right. That makes me think of people that are really big, for example, online. And the bigger you get, the more haters you get and the more mean comments. But for
Yeah.
some reason, it's kind of like they're not putting their attention there. so it doesn't really affect them, right?
They
So it's
don't
like you
feed it.
said, it's where you put your attention. That's where the energy goes. So it's just like if you don't give it any attention, it will not affect you, right?
Amen.
Mm.
Yes. You just like, yeah, full
I love that.
circle.
I love that. And what about sort of this idea that others sort of have this control over you energetically? I'm not
So
sure. For
that's what it felt
me,
like. Yeah. In
this
the
is when
beginning
it
of my
gets
journey.
shaky.
Yeah. In the beginning of my journey, I was like, oh my God, then now I'm aware of all this control that other people have.
Hmm.
The answer to that is people only have control if you give it to them.
Right.
They only have power over you if you give it to them. So it was really coming back and realizing that it was the little things I was doing, the little things I was thinking, or the little things that I was leaving to chance. Not taking full control of my life gives
Mm.
partial control to others. So it's again really needing to get centered, grounded,
Mm.
and to just know and to take full responsibility for everything, because then you have the power to change it, then you have the power to do something. But if there's any area in life where you're not taking responsibility, like, well, it's that person's fault, or oh God, it's the universe's fault, or it's this, anytime you
Mm.
are really just giving your power away. And then you are allowing that energy, entity, person, the universe to control. You're leaving things to chance. And then you are not being the master creator of your destiny in your life.
Mm.
So there is that. So don't be afraid and don't think others have control, but just take that as like, if it does happen and you're like, gosh, I know what they just did right now.
Mm.
Okay, take that as a sign that you're seeing a reflection of what needs to be closed within you, or what needs to be
Mm.
healed, or what needs to be a stronger boundary. Everything is a shadow. So
Can you give an
everything,
example of something like that?
yeah. So let me think about something in my life that, okay. So this is common relationship
Mm.
patterns,
Right.
or it could be a coworker at work or things like that. If anytime, okay, so no matter what job I had, I was always getting this token character that was like very similar to my mother, who
Mm.
was wanting to tell me how to do my job, when to do my job, force, like very aggressive,
Mm.
forcing their will on me. And it was like, no matter, again, no matter, I quit that job. Okay, I'm going to go to a different job where I think it's going to be healthy this time. But no, that
Mm.
character kept following me, because, again, it wasn't that they necessarily wanted my power. And it wasn't necessarily that I was giving them my power, but it was the universe reflecting for me what needed to be healed within
Okay.
myself, which is me standing up and
Mm-hmm.
saying, no. Like, saying no was a huge lesson for me in life. And again, that comes with boundaries.
Right.
So it was me needing to say no and have faith in my decisions over someone else's decisions for me. So it's really me learning to take my place in life for myself and take control of the vehicle, the car, take the wheel of my life. But it was all that patterns and all those reflections. So lo and behold, the moment I did that, and I was like, I am sick of this character following me. Like, what do I got to do? And I really, again, I didn't feed it. I didn't give that person anger. I didn't try to bring them down. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
battle. It's not a war, unless it's a war within yourself, because it's going to keep happening
Right.
if you don't heal it within yourself. So, a lot of identifying within me why, a lot of meditation, a lot of just, working with that energy and transmuting it, but mainly just stepping up and being confident. It was needing to be confident in
Mm.
myself and trusting my decisions and trusting myself, that not only did that person who tried to run my life, even outside of work, stop. But I had left that place of business for like maybe 4 months. I took a break. She was begging for me to come back.
Mm,
The person who tried to like destroy my life and kick me out of that job,
mm,
um, was then telling the managers in the business, we need her back. She does know what she's doing. She
mm,
was the one who really cared for these animals, da 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 da. So it was like, that's how you see it too. So I didn't have to change who she was. I didn't have to change her belief. I didn't have to change anything about her. Once you change it within yourself and you do the work on a spiritual level, it trickles down as above, so below. So then it just automatically, the matrix reflected that new energy. Once that is
mm,
decorded, once that is decorded or healed within you, it it really does change the people, the environment, just how everyone sees you. It's almost
mm-hmm.
like they saw you as that's what you were carrying.
Right, right, right.
Once you let go of that, like that mirror of someone else, maybe from your trauma or past, or when you're not carrying that cloak of other
Mm-hmm.
people's conditioning, they don't see that anymore. They can see really you, and then they start to interact in a healthier manner with you.
Mm.
That
I
I would say is the example that I had. That was a big one, followed me for a long time.
Thank you for sharing that. How do you first realize that this pattern was happening? Because I think for a lot of people, the hardest part is to like notice things, right? That first level of self-awareness. So sometimes it's like a pattern follows us for decades and we don't even know that it's there.
Yeah, it's anytime you're triggered,
Mm,
the easiest way to notice that something is not of you is when you feel it. You feel anger, sadness, depression, loneliness. Anytime you're triggered and you're not feeling good, because our natural state is to be balanced, and you don't have to be overly joyful, but
right, right.
there is a sense of peace and
Mm-hmm.
joy, and that is our natural state, our God-given human right.
Right.
And so anytime we fluctuate from that and we're being triggered,
Mm.
most people will tend to get that trigger and trigger back,
Mm-hmm.
reflect
Or
back,
defend or yeah. Mm-hmm.
and defend. They get into an immediate defense. Well, then you're engaging in this game, and it's
You're
a
giving
drama.
into this energy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're giving your energy, your power, and your control. Boom, right there instantly. When you engage, then you're in this trauma drama,
Mm.
right?
I
And you're
like that.
playing this game.
Mm.
So immediately the best thing you could do is to recognize it once you're triggered, and then be aware of that emotion within you, and don't feed it to the opposite energy first. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to do, but to just be still for a moment, maybe step away, maybe take some deep breaths, ask yourself, where is this coming from? Where usually it's not that person, it's from something deeper, from
Right.
something in the past, or even from past life. Again, it can be unconscious to us why we
Mm-hmm.
keep having this trigger and response to these certain things, or why these things keep happening in our life that we're like, why? It could be completely unconscious, and that's why being active and an interrogator, a detective,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Curious.
curiosity and
Mm-hmm.
discovering what these unconscious things are that are ruling your life, I mean, is so powerful.
Yeah. And I just want to mention also, I saw this thing a few days ago and I thought it was really clever. And I don't know how much this is based in science or not, but they said there are two types of triggers. The first type is what you're mentioning, sort of this mirror of that shows you where to heal and grow. And the second one is merely us re-traumatizing ourselves. So really just us sort of reliving the same old trauma, right? So there are two of them and with self-awareness, with this curious mindset, we can also know, oh, okay, this is just me recreating this, and this is an opportunity to heal and grow. So it's also sort of knowing which one's which. I found that to be really interesting because it was the first time I saw it that way.
I love that you said opportunity, because
Hmm.
that's exactly why it's there. That's why we chose these people, these opportunities, these
Yeah.
circumstances and events is an opportunity to see where we can evolve basically and become closer to our true self, our higher self, our true nature, embody that
Mm.
is I love how you mentioned the like re-traumatizing ourselves. The way I visualize that is like that's when we're being operated by just kind of the autonomic human avatar.
Right.
And it's like our brain has, if it's the computer, we just have a program in it. And it's like if we're not, yeah, if we're not aware of that program, we just keep reprogramming it. And
Hmm.
like you said, we relive it. So oftentimes that's what's really good about past life regression and stuff like that too, or just mindset,
Right. Right.
reprogramming your mindset. Because if you don't, you could have those programs kind of
Mm.
autonomically running your day.
Right.
And again, creating obstacles, creating things you don't want, creating patterns, or and you're like, why is this happening to me? Well, it's because it's just in there.
Mm.
And its job is to keep replaying, but you can choose to put in a new program
Right.
at any time. You can choose to take out the old one and put in a new one that serves you on your life path.
Mm. Do you know what image I have going with this analogy of a program
Yeah.
and a computer? It's kind of like when you get a notification for an update and you're like, remind me later.
Yeah, remind
And
me
so
later.
it keeps reminding you for the update, So the trigger, it's going to keep on repeating itself because you keep
Yeah.
saying, remind me later. You don't want to face it. You're like, remind me later. And then 3 months go by and you're like, okay, I'll do the goddamn update. And then, oh, look, the computer's working better now. It's kind of like that. Like, okay, I'll face this thing now. Jesus,
Yeah.
like stop showing me this. Yeah.
That's exactly how it is. It's like, it's just a game where the universe is just going to keep giving it to you until you're ready to face it. And
Hmm.
it can take 2 seconds or it could take 5 years. It could take
Right.
your whole lifetime.
You could also
It,
never update it and stay with the oldest version of Windows
yes.
ever. Yeah.
Yes, because that's the thing
Yeah.
about free will. We always have free will. We always have choice. But it's usually people that hit rock bottom that wake up
Mm.
because they've taken the program too long. Like it's been just hitting them until you have nothing more to do but what did you say? Like,
Update. Yeah. It's like this is your final warning. Even we shut this
yeah.
thing down or you do the update. Yeah, for sure. I
So it
you
was built
mentioned,
there for us. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. That's true. It is. I like that idea. It is there. It's kind of like it's there for you. Take it or
Yeah.
leave it. Or ignore until, further notice.
Yeah.
You mentioned courting before, and I feel like this goes with, energy and how we relate to one another. Um, I think you had an exercise or a meditation about cord cutting, didn't you? Can you talk about what cording is for people that don't know and sort of how what it is energetically and how you can
Yeah.
decord? A lot of people want to know like, oh, I keep going back to this person. I know they're toxic for me, but I can't seem to help myself. How can I move on from this person? And never come back, kind of thing. And I think you had a meditation because I remember sending to some of my clients your meditation. Like, this is a good one for decording. Listen to this one. So can you talk a little bit about that?
So courting happens, it is just like an energy tie. And remember a minute ago, I was talking about the trauma dramas.
Hmm.
So anytime you engage, you cord. You're like, okay, I believe your story and I'm fighting it. I'm giving you some of my energy. I'm
Hmm.
taking some of yours. Now you've got this mesh. So it's just an agreement, a
Okay.
contract. And you can make new ones every day. So it's really something you need to be conscious of at every moment, what decision you make and engagement you make with people. And that's why they say it's like, well, be careful who you're around and
Mm.
be careful, what you allow in your mind and things you hear, the news channel, the media, the TV. I mean, anytime you're in really engaging in anything, you're exchanging of energy through,
Mm.
through
Okay.
cord. Now there's lighter chords, like something that just happened, like you didn't even know this person, they cut you off in traffic, and okay, yeah, you kind of been thinking about them all day, you're draining your energy a little bit that day, but you'll eventually kind of, okay, I'm going to stop that. There's deeper chords where it's, oh, this is like a thing from a past life. And it's
With the same
like,
person, you mean?
yeah, with the
Mm.
same soul energy person. And we've been doing the same thing for lifetimes. And so there's
Okay.
like thicker chords and there's lighter chords that are more like strings, it's all just the amount of energy or power you give to something.
Mm.
So
I'm just going to interrupt you here. For example, the person in traffic, do you have, like, say the next morning I forgot completely about it. Does this mean that the cord has been sort of cut, or do I have to put my intention into sort of, you know, cutting that cord?
yeah, once it just no longer bothers you, like you've let it
Okay.
go. And even if it pops back in your mind, but you're just like, you don't have that
Mm.
emotional,
Okay.
you don't feel
Reaction?
anything come up, yeah, then it's past.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not, you're not courted anymore. So that's the good thing about triggers is when you heal a trigger and say that person, maybe they don't change. They still do the same thing, but there's not that internal reaction with you. Like
Mm.
it doesn't bother you personally anymore.
Okay.
They could be the same. That's when you know that you're no longer courted. So
Mm.
you're like, okay, I'm not longer courted. And the thing is with that is usually if they aren't going to heal and change, because sometimes when you, like I said, when you heal, it heals them too.
Right.
Say maybe they're not ready for it, they'll just go find someone else to play that trauma
Mm-hmm.
drama game with, and but it won't be you anymore because you're not giving it that attention or energy. You're not courted to that anymore.
Mm. So once it's a one-way street, kind of,
Yeah,
then they let it go
they
because they
let
mostly feed on, your what you're
you're
giving them, right?
feeding it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're feeding that energy. It takes two to tango.
Right.
So that's another thing when people give responsibility, like, oh, it's all their fault. No,
Mm-hmm.
you are absolutely in control and responsible for everything that's happening in your life. So it takes two. And if you don't like the dance, it takes you to step away from it, sometimes.
Yeah, and
So
just for people listening, just, a little star sign there. We're not talking about abuse. We're not talking about serious psychological and violence and all these. Okay, we're talking about just relationships in general. I don't want
yeah,
anybody listening to this thinking that they have caused somebody to abuse them physically, emotionally, mentally,
yeah,
etc. Okay, so it's not about that.
that's perfectly said. So um my my second husband was very abusive. And it's like, yeah, I didn't cause him to act or react how he chose to react from his
Mm-hmm.
triggers, but I did have every right to step away.
Right.
So there is that decision making
Mm-hmm.
where, I couldn't, and I think a lot of people stay in those unhealthy, toxic, abusive relationships because then they think, oh, maybe I can change them or maybe I can heal them.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's my job,
Right.
and so there's the lot, like you said, disclosure. There's a lot
Right.
entailed with personal details, but yes, I still had control of my life and was able to say I don't want to play this game anymore
Mm-hmm.
and choose to walk away. So that's where I took my power back,
Right.
was to no longer engage in that game,
Mm-hmm.
which again, sometimes we're not conscious that we're choosing from the start, especially with narcissistics. And I mean,
Yeah.
there are a lot of mental illnesses out there,
Yes.
and there is a lot of people that are fake and people that are
Unconscious also.
unconscious. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it doesn't always, you don't see the truth sometimes right away. And so it doesn't mean that when you do see the truth, you can't make the decision at that
Mm-hmm.
point. You can always change your mind. You always have, again, free will
Yeah.
comes into.
Greatly
So
said. Yeah. I was thinking it just, you know how sometimes just sentences pop in my mind, but sometimes I was thinking yesterday, like people see what they choose to see. A lot of the times it's like, this is what I decide to see and nothing else. And so this is, how I will react because this is my perception of things. And I feel like it goes hand in hand with this. It's sort of like, oh yeah, I see that he's, this way and I can save him. And this is just what I decide to do.
the rose-colored glasses,
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
like to say,
Yeah.
because it does, you believe what you're perceiving, what
Mm-hmm.
your perspective on something kind of shapes your beliefs and shapes your reality. And then, so really getting clear perceptions and seeing reality for what it is. And again, not being overly happy, not being overly sad, but being really able to see the truth and the neutrality
Yeah.
and the reality is a great help on the path of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
can
yeah.
make the decisions, you can make the thing with clarity.
Informed decisions, yeah?
Yeah, informed
Mm-hmm.
decisions. So, so I would like to say, if you don't know, then your first step is to get more aware,
Mm-hmm.
get more
Get
knowledge,
inquisitive or get
get
curious. Yeah.
inquisitive,
Mm-hmm.
get more information. If you don't know how to make a decision and you're like, I don't know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
okay, then your first thing to do is, yeah, to get informed, get more information. That's what you need to do then, because usually when you have all the facts, then you can make a clear decision.
Mm-hmm. And and yes, exactly. I love that. And seeing things neutrally in a neutral way, not in an emotionally triggered sort of here's all my baggage and I take this with me way. It's more of like, okay, these are the facts.
Yeah.
And I like to say this, it also works along, anxiety and intuition because a lot of times our anxiety will give us like random things and sort of,
Yeah.
the most dramatic outcomes. And I like to do this process of, okay, what facts do I have supporting this? Oh, I have none. Okay, great. So then I know that it's really just my
Just
anxiety speaking,
emotion.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
just doing the process is so important.
So yeah, when you're triggered, you kind of get emotionally hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the instant you get emotionally hijacked. So that's why it is so important to disengage from that game, step away, get grounded, centered, breathe, feel
Mm-hmm.
into your emotions. They're there for a reason, but they're there to show you something, not for you to react upon or to
Mm-hmm.
react out of fear. Because then
Right.
again, then you're snowballing your reality into more negative manifestations, by acting on that trigger. So, yeah, very
Yeah.
important.
I feel like we just came back full circle
Yeah,
into sort of manifesting our thoughts and how, the jinx works, because this is what we're talking about in the beginning, and this is what we sort of came back to. So, um, yeah, I feel like that's a great place to stop it just because we
yeah,
we we did the full circle,
yeah. So
right?
it's like, don't jinx yourself is the main thing.
Yeah.
If everyone can just stop jinxing themselves and jinxing each other.
Yeah. So I think, takeaways from today. For me, it was sort of like the power that our thoughts actually have to be manifested in reality, whether we want it or not. Um, Self-awareness, the importance of it, taking a step back, and also paying attention to what we feed energetically. I feel like it's such a important conversation to have too, because just it's easy to go through life in an unconscious way and sort of be reactive and get upset with other people and just sort of play this game, right? Play into this game. And once you realize that you are playing a game, deciding then to step out of it and see things from a different perspective.
That's where you take your power back.
Mm-hmm.